Hello and welcome to a very special Global Women Leaders in Conversation on World Refugees Day 2023. Today is the day of celebrating and honoring the strength and courage of refugees, the millions of people who fled their homelands due to conflict, persecution, or natural disaster. Today is also a reminder of how we as a world must not lose sight of our common humanity and look at ways in which we seek protection and long-term sustainable solutions for refugees and displaced populations through dignity, livelihoods, and opportunities to thrive in host communities. I'm absolutely delighted to have a very special guest with me today, a member of our Global Women Leaders community, Lorraine Charles, the founder and executive director of her organization, Amal, who is working on the future of work opportunities for refugees, particularly examining the potential of digital livelihoods. Welcome, Lorraine. If you could just say a short welcome and we'll get started.
Thanks, Kim. I'm really excited to be here today and to share about my work and the potential that there is.
Great, excellent. Well, let's get started. I'd like to begin by asking you a little bit about Amal. What were the circumstances surrounding your founding of the organization, and what was the experience that you had to spur you to create this organization?
Yeah, thanks. That's a question that I'm often asked, and I always say I'm a reluctant entrepreneur, a reluctant social entrepreneur. NAMA was founded from my research. I was doing research about the situation for refugees, the education situation for refugees in the Middle East, understanding how the private sector could engage to support refugee education and sort of looking at different stages of education. And I became interested in what happens post-secondary education because funding decreases as refugees age. And which means that also the enrollment in education decreases as refugees age. So at that time, when I was doing research in 2015, 2016, less than about 3% of refugees went to university. And I was really curious to understand, okay, with this low university enrollment, what does that mean for the plight of refugees? So I started to be curious around livelihoods. And I did research around livelihoods for refugees in Jordan and Turkey, and then later Lebanon. And this is where I saw the gap. And the big gap that I saw was there were great programs supporting refugee employment, great training programs, but there was a very narrow view of what employment could be like. They all looked within their host community. And the other big gap I saw that there wasn't an explicit focus on these 21st century skills or soft skills or human skills, whatever we call them. Whilst in K-12 education and sort of even in the global north, there's a lot of focus on these skills, but refugee education didn't seem to include these skills, which we knew were really important for the future of work. I sort of put these two things together. And initially I was intended to do research, not really start an organization. And I met someone who said, no, we need to do something because no one else is doing this. So that's what spurred me on. It's just a luck of meeting someone at the right time, but really seeing the gaps through my research. You're on mute.
Muted. Yes, sorry. That's just fantastic. And to take it from research and the grounding that you had there and that evidence base, but actually to leverage on that and to move forward and to actually start something is admirable and what we all need more of. Access to work is a fundamental right to the dignity and well-being of refugees, but the Global Refugees Work Rights Report from 2022 from Refugees International found that 55% of refugees live in a country that significantly restricts their right to work in practice. In your experience, what have you found to be the biggest challenges that refugees face in finding employment in their new or host country? And what can host countries do to better meet these challenges?
Well, the fact, you said it there, these countries limit their access to employment. So for example, my research was initially in the Middle East, in Jordan and Lebanon and Turkey. And in Lebanon, refugees are only allowed to work in very limited sectors. In Jordan, the same, but there's been moves to sort of expand the sectors. But really, without legal access to employment, refugees are stuck with informality and in precarious conditions. So this perhaps is the biggest barrier. Even in countries where refugees have the right to work, and if we consider that most refugees live in the global south, the narrative that most refugees are in the global north is a misperception. Most refugees live in the global south, which themselves face challenges around employing their nationals. So refugees add an extra layer of complication to already stretched resources in countries in the global south. So all of these factors combined make it difficult for refugees to find employment.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this firsthand. A group of us from Global Women Leaders went to Lebanon, and I've been to refugee camps in Kenya at Kakuma, and I've seen firsthand the challenges. We know that digitalization has created both access and gaps for women, gaps for young people, and other marginalized communities. How can we create a truly digital, inclusive pathway for refugees, including women and young people, when it comes to skills, literacy, and participation? And how do we lay the groundwork for digital education for children and young people?
Yeah, that's a really big question. I mean, I really see digital as the future of work. Yet there is still a gap in education. Whilst for many of us in the global north, we see digital skills as something which our kids learn automatically. It's integrated into the school curriculum. Many places in the global south, the education systems don't include these, or even if they do, they don't have access to devices and connectivity for kids to really get to grips with this technology. So, so fast forward to young people leaving school without the digital skills which they need to access the digital economy. It makes it more complicated. And for those that are fortunate enough, that have been to university, that have some access to connectivity, and that have some of the skills, it's easy for them to bring them from somewhere to a job. So that gap is easy, taking people from somewhere to a job. It just takes sort of training programs. It just takes upskilling and links to networks and links to the global economy, the global digital economy as it stands. But for those who start from nowhere to somewhere, that's the tricky part. It's really hard to get from nowhere to a job, or certainly a job in the digital economy, because a lot of the jobs, even those that require lower skills, require a good level of English. So I always talk about refugee education, and I often call out UNHCR for insisting that refugees are integrated into the education system of the host community, which is often failing. So why would you put refugees who are already disadvantaged in an education system which is already failing? Why not create a system that's better and then include the host community in this better system? So until education is improved, across the board, not just for refugees, but also communities in which refugees are hosted, then it'll mean that only those who are more fortunate, i.e., more privileged, will have access to these spaces. So we really need a reconceptualization of what education looks like and how we approach education to really understand that digital skills is now a human right. Reading, literacy, numeracy, and digital skills, these are the 3 core skills now.
Can you tell us, just to go on a little bit about your model, just so the viewers can understand a little bit about how you're tackling some of these challenges?
Yeah, so the way NAML works is we always work in collaboration. We see collaboration is really important. I really believe in breaking the silos within this space, and within the development space, there are many silos. How can we break the silos? So we always work in collaboration. So our sort of expertise, the niche that we've sort of found and become experts at, is sort of the professional skills, the soft skills, the human skills for digital employment. What are these skills that we know that people need to navigate this new space? And whilst we sort of focus on remote work, digital employment, these skills transcend space. They're also relevant in a sort of traditional face-to-face setting. So what our program does is we focus on these skills: communication, time management, critical thinking, leadership, all of these things which are required to be successful when working. We work with partners that teach the technical skills. So we focus on these professional skills. Our partners focus on the technical skills, whether it's full web development, data analysis, Python, digital marketing, graphic design. Our partners focus on the technical skills. We focus on the professional skills. Together, the program provides a holistic education for refugees. But also what NAML does is we provide refugees a mentor. And this mentorship we feel is really important. This is what we feel is really crucial for a lot of refugees to really to have access to the space. If we think about how we got jobs, we often don't get jobs we apply for, we get jobs through our networks. And refugees lack this social capital. So with our mentorship program, we want to give refugees this social capital which they lack to access employment. So we sort of see ourselves as providing part of a holistic model for education to provide access, networks, and the skills.
Fantastic. And so for clarity, are you meeting people where they are in terms of their level of education? You're not taking only people who have gone all the way through the schooling system? Are you taking people at different exit points and picking up where they can? Or explain a little bit about the entry points for your.
Well, right now, we want to get people to jobs as quickly as possible. And to do that, we need to have people with a certain level of English. So without that, it's very difficult. In terms of the technical training programs, it depends on the programs. The more advanced training, for example, full stack web development, require people who already have a background, who already have some knowledge. Yes, it is possible for some people with very little knowledge, but it's hard to start with how do you turn on a computer to become a full stack web developer in 6 months. And that's really what we're trying to do, provide a really accelerated program. So we see our role as working for those who are somewhere and need to get a job, and a good job. But what we want to do is we want to support organizations that sort of work further down the stream, because we need a good filter of people coming to us. So how can we support organizations working further down the stream whilst focusing on those who have the potential, who really need that, that push for a year to get them to where they can have a dignified job. And also, I'm not sure if it's fair to sort of to do everything. We want to do one thing really well and then support others doing other things so that we can, all do our work really well.
Fantastic. Now, you've just taken on a very ambitious task in Ethiopia in partnership with the Conrad Hilton Foundation and Digital Opportunity Trust. And Ethiopia is the second largest refugee hosting country in Africa, with over 700,000 refugees, of which 53% are female. What is your strategic vision for Namal, for Ethiopia, and have you begun the groundwork on this project?
Yeah, so we kicked off. We had orientation 2 weeks ago. This is week 2 of the program. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the learners are incredible, and sometimes I think, maybe we do have an easy job, because the learners are fantastic, really good level of English, really engaged, really committed. So, whilst the challenge is going to be linking them to jobs, so far the commitment has been impressive. And we do see them, and we hope we have a good retainment in the program, because we're really scaffolding the program to provide them all of the support which they need to be successful, including doing some micro work during the training so they can earn money, get some experience during the training, and then links to internship. So I think the challenge is going to be, how do we get companies, and this is perhaps a call out, if you want a brilliant intern for 4 to 5 months, our learners are keen, they're engaged, they're absolutely wonderful. We really want companies to understand that whilst the talent have had disadvantages, have had struggles, they're resilient, they're incredible, and they'll be incredible employees. In fact, I want to say this, we've hired one of our alumni from our previous 2021 cohort, who is a Eritrean refugee in Ethiopia. Namal has hired him, not full-time because he's got other work, but we've hired him as a coordinator on the ground to support our training. So our cohort of refugees can see someone who has a similar background to them, who is working remotely. He's working for a US and EU company, working remotely, and he is working for us, supporting other refugees in the space.
That's fantastic. So good. Now, you work with the private sector, and you mentioned a call out to the private sector in curating opportunities for refugees to work. How have you gone about sort of getting these partners on board, and have you seen a shift in the private sector to be more involved in addressing access to work for refugees? And how can the private sector play a bigger role in addressing livelihoods for refugees in different parts of the world where you work?
Yeah, so it is complicated, and there has been no wide-scale hiring of refugees by the private sector so far. So yes, there are companies which are doing a great job. We have some great partners who are doing things, but it's not enough. We need a lot more. Often, for a lot of companies, especially large companies, the whole procurement issues are quite complex, especially if they want to be hired as a freelancer or contractor. It's quite difficult for them to hire, an individual like that. So we're trying to come up with systems to support that. But for smaller companies, like us, who are quite small and nimble, it's not so complicated. Perhaps they're just, I feel that companies aren't perhaps quite aware of how to do it. They are reticent because it's a new space for them, it's a new talent. So while many fully remote companies might work with talent in the global south, they work with talent who are familiar, while refugees are sort of a more unfamiliar talent. So we really try to socialize the private sector to the talent And when companies hire our talent, they're extremely happy, but it's just getting our foot in the door. One thing we do is with our mentorship program, we engage companies like that. So we'd say we've got a great partner in the UK. They mentored for our program last year. They mentored 10 of our 100 cohort, and they had a really positive experience, and they will mentor and they've asked to do more. So by companies mentoring the talent, they get to really understand what the talent is like in a non-committal way. So this is one way we sort of try to engage companies slowly by saying, you mentor our talent. They see how incredible they are. They'll think, okay, we're investing our people to mentor. We need to also hire people because we see how incredible they are. We sort of have lots of meetings with companies, and often by me talking in venues like this, it gets people interested and engaged and really trying to support. And for companies, you are doing us a favor. This is a win-win. You need talent. There's a shortage of tech talent in the global north. Many countries and many countries just don't have enough talent for the economy to grow. You are supporting untapped talent. And by hiring remotely, you're also supporting the community. So this is a win-win for everyone.
So on that note, this is why we're thrilled to give our platform to you to get the message out and to help connect you with our community and our networks. What are the challenges or opportunities for you as the executive director and the founder? There's a whole wide world of private sector and other employment opportunities out there. How can others support you to do this work, to filter opportunities, or to join forces with you to accelerate what you're trying to do?
So I would say start mentoring. We always looking for great mentors who can support our talent with these skills to navigate the professional setting. But also, if you have a tech team and you think you can support an intern, our talent are really eager, really keen. They want to do well. They want to work hard. They want to do well for your organization. Please consider hosting an intern. And even if you only hire interns year after year, that's okay, because we also need companies who only want to host interns, multiple interns, year after year. If you need tech talent, we have an incredible alumni who are eager to work, who've been doing small projects, who've been doing freelancing on the side, but are eager to take on a much larger, meatier project where they can have a much more sustainable income. So I really encourage organizations, to think about the team you have, and think about how your team would benefit from diverse talent. As I said, you are doing us a favor. This is a win-win. This is great for you, because we know diverse teams are more, diverse companies with diverse teams are more profitable. So this is a benefit for everyone.
So Lorraine, you and I met through the Center for Global Equality at Cambridge. You're part of the Cultivator program there, trying to accelerate and grow your organization and your thinking. Are there other sectors that this is relevant to? I mean, tech applies across nonprofits, across the academic sector? Are there other opportunities? And are you working with other either educational institutions or other types of organizations on the ground, or is that a possibility for you as you expand your program?
So as I said, we really value partnership. Partnerships are really what make us strong and robust. So, through CGE, I've got a fantastic mentor, but also links to other organizations. So, so I do say to my, to others in the cultivator, if you need tech talent, we have tech talent. Before CGE, I was part of Cambridge Social Ventures. Again, very Cambridge linked. And again, there's a whole lot of other startups which are eager for talent. So again, I say to them, I've been saying to them, you need talent. We have interns who can really support your growth. I've got a research title at Cambridge, and Cambridge has been extremely, supportive in the work that I do. And they're always trying to find ways to sort of promote what NAML does, but also to support us. So we have a few things in mind, where we can have more active engagement. We work closely with MIT. MIT is one of our big collaborators. When we hosted the Migration Summit, we co-hosted with MIT. NAML works with MIT on in their Refugee Action Hub program. So we do have lots of educational institutions that are partners. And again, we're always looking for others, especially around research, because I see research as a core pillar to what NAML does. And and my Cambridge hat, I still do research, but I really want to expand our research remit because this space is so understudied. It's new. We don't have any long-term studies about the impact of digital livelihoods, or even, is this the right way to go? We're guessing, we aren't really sure. I mean, studies indicate that yes, so far it is positive, but we don't have any longitudinal study for, to say yes for sure. So there needs to be a lot more research in this space. But I think where NAML is unique is that we have foot in both doors, the research, the implementation, because often they're very siloed. So research academics would sort of come and sort of observe, and then they'd go away and do the research. But where NAML sits is, myself as a researcher through Cambridge, when we implement, I have my research eyes on, but also I have my implementation eyes on. So I sort of see both, when we're working. So I think that makes us really unique because we're implementing projects, working directly with the talent, but also doing research to understand the impact of what we're doing.
I mean, this is what the future models should and do look like. Sheha Intisar of Intisar Foundation does work on drama therapy and support for women refugees and women affected by conflict and violence. She also has right at the core a thread of research running through that, not just for evidence-based for funding or other opportunities, but to get it right, to get the model right, to adapt, to adjust, and to learn. And so, just so proud of you for taking this on. It would have been easy to sit, in the hallowed halls and continue to do research and drop in and out, but you're living and breathing it and building it. So we're all here to support you. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, can you share, I mean, we all love the stories. So can you share some stories of success or best practice in digital employment for refugees, which can and should be replicated in other countries and in other settings?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of best practice, maybe I'll do that. I'll talk about that second, but maybe I'll share some really wonderful stories. And I sort of started on one. We hired one of our alumni, and for me, that's just that was always my aim, to hire one of my alumni. He's also NAML's advisory board. He's an incredible young man. We're so proud to have him on our team. First in our advisory board and now part of our core NAML team. When he graduated from the MIT React NAML program, got a job working for an EU company and started very slowly. And for me, this is a beautiful story. He didn't have a bank account, and he said to me, I need to be paid. I don't have a bank account. And I said, well, I bank with Wise. Let's try them. And they said, no, we don't accept refugee identification. He emailed them and said, listen, this is all I have. This is explain the circumstance. Now, refugee ID is listed on one of the documents on Wise to open a bank account. So we're so proud of him. another really wonderful story. And this one, I mean, they all make me cry. This one made me cry even more. On New Year's Day, I sort of woke up, I got an email. One of my alumni donated back to the organization through our fundraising campaign. And it made me cry. I thought, wow, he's got a great job working at Meta. They moved him to Ireland working for Meta. I thought, wow, this is, yes, I mean, I'm not expecting anyone to donate to us, but the fact that he felt that he could, that he can donate to us after this, for me, it moved me to tears.
Well, it's the best endorsement of what you're doing. I mean, CamFed, also born out of Cambridge, a very similar model. The executive director is one of the first women who went through that program, and their growth is predicated on the giving back that the women who have gone through that program are giving back to girls' education. So that's the sign of sustainability. And CamFed was a winner of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize, and so I can forecast you at a future date being in the running for something like that, because your model is got all the elements needed for sustainability, and those stories are not just good feel-good stories, but they're stories about how you're building something that people believe in and they want to give back to. So
and that's, we aim to create a community around what we do. So we actively engage with our alumni, we actively engage with our previous mentors, and our mentors come back to us. We've had mentors that have mentored with us twice and want to come again for a third time. So we really see us as creating this community around the work that we do, and really being inclusive and making everyone feel that there is a place for them. No matter how little they can do or how much they can do, there's a place for everyone. And I'm often asked about scale. I don't see scale as me doing 1 million people, because I want to keep this really high touch model. I hate the word boutique, but sort of high touch model where we can really have an impact on as many of our learners as possible, a direct impact. What for me, scale is creating this model for others to replicate. This is how I think scale will happen, because we know that small classrooms are better than large classrooms. We know that students need interaction. So I'm often confused when organizations say, when donors say, or when often investors say, how can you get to scale? But we know that this scale, which they think about, doesn't work in education. So there's a bit of sort of a mismatch there between what is sort of economically viable as opposed to what works. And for us, what works is more important.
And the social capital, the mentoring, I mean, all the lessons from all the different models that across our community and that we've worked with and supported, that's the secret ingredient every time.
Yes.
Livelihood Foundation in India, working on social skills, Leap Science and Math School in South Africa, who also it's just that holistic model, and that takes the resources to wrap around the young people and the people going through your programs. And without it, we know how some of the just programs that don't have that aren't hitting the results or the longevity. So the scale will come. I mean, again, I'll go back to CamFed. That's a 30-year model, and now that exponential growth is coming because of the quality of the program and the endorsement and the the support of the community that you're building. It's a community-based model, bottom up. It's a longer game, but I think you're on the right track. What we can do is just help get your message out so that more people can put their thinking caps on and replicate your model and take it to other places, because as we know, on Refugee Day, the need is great, not just on this day and this week, but every day. Just a little bit on how you're measuring, because you are a researcher. How are you tracking the impact of these programs and the progress in their careers? What is the plan for that? I know you're fairly new, but how will you track going forward?
So this is a really interesting question. And a couple of years ago, I guess when I was first started, I sort of wrote all these concept notes for doing this. And one of the concept notes I wrote is for a longitudinal tracker. How can we track our learners long term, and what sort of questions do we need to know, qualitative and quantitative? And often with donors are only interested in what happened 6 months, well, not even 6 months, right after the training. And we really can't see the impact. The impact of livelihoods is long term. So I have an idea of sort of building this tracker which will track the longitudinal impact of our programs and for all other programs. So to understand the impact on not just the individual, but on their family and on their community. Are their children going to school? Are the children in their family going to school? Are the other women in their family doing better because they have, because the opportunity which they've had? Are other family members also doing similar work and doing better because of their experience? And we have seen, certainly in our cohorts, that one year we had one individual, and the next year his brother joined the program. So,
the flow on effects.
Yes, these ripple effects of I feel what's really important. Another thing, which I think is important to measure is have the people who've been through our program and sort of gain these jobs, are they then opening a business just to support other parts of the community? So these are the long-term impacts that I want to measure. And again, it just takes funding, for us to get money to build this tool, but the blueprint is there, the need is there.
That's fantastic. Well, there's another call out for some help on your digital and your longitudinal, tracker. On that note, I think it's important to recognize that digitalization has the potential to transform the future of work for communities and populations, and also programs like yours supporting them who are economically and politically marginalized, such as refugees. On this Refugee Day, our hope as global women leaders is that we learn and replicate models like yours at Namal. And in order for that to happen, we need coordinated action, commitment from the private sector, philanthropy, foundations, grassroots organizations, and governments to be fundamental in supporting refugees in the digital economy. Lorraine, I just want to hand it back to you for any closing comments. And also just, I guess, from a personal note, it's always nice to hear, I guess, your personal, not just how proud you are, but some of the challenges as well, and how you're traveling in this. You went from researcher to founder, executive director. What's next for you, and what is your hope for the future?
Well, it is challenging. I mean, often I wake up and I think sometimes it's just easy if I had a job that would pay me, and I go to bed, I close my laptop, and I'm done. But that's not the life I signed up for, and in fact, it doesn't excite me. I like big challenges and I like to tackle huge problems. So it is challenging. Funding is always a problem. I mean, yesterday I emailed my mentor from CG and I said, oh my God, Alex, I need funding. I have funding for my programs, but I need core funding because there's so much I want to do. We've got a podcast series 1, we want to do series 2 of our podcast. We want to do so many things, but with this, core funding is, unearmarked funding is required. I'm thinking, right, how can I pull money from one pocket to the next? And that's not a really good way to do it. So core funding is a real challenge, but I guess it's the same for organizations. Another big plan is to sort of create an ecosystem for refugees to be seen and to be hired. So as opposed to the sort of ad hoc hiring or come to one organization, come to the next, how can I create an ecosystem to support all organizations like ours doing the training? And again, we need funding for this. Again, the blueprint is there. I'm really good at writing blueprints and concept notes. This is my researcher hat, but not so good at sort of going out to ask for funding, because that's not, I wasn't trained in that, but learning very quickly. And I feel that, when people understand the vision, people will be compelled because it is going to work. It's a good model. And we're creating this ecosystem not just to support the talent. Yes, we're supporting refugees, but also we're supporting a talent need that companies have. There's a real need for what we're doing. So it's not just, we're helping people. No, we're supporting an economic need that's real and that's increasing.
I mean, there's a few things there I'm going to pick up on as we round out. Absolutely core funding. And that's one of the things that we try to bring in putting together platforms like this. Is my background is corporate treasury and funding, and I don't like the word fundraising. And as you said, if you get people to the table, they understand your program and the system that you're building and the need that you're actually filling. You're not asking anyone to do a favor. You're actually providing a service to both parties. You're an intermediary in this case. And so once people understand that, the money should flow. The money, there's no scarcity. So giving platform to women and men like you who are building these incredible programs. Your job shouldn't be to fundraise across the whole universe. It's inefficient. So we need to get smarter about getting communications out, putting our heads together on how we can raise our collective voices to talk about your needs, not couched in fundraising, but in good business sense, which is, I think, what you're doing.
Yes.
And how we hope to help you, and also how you can work, I guess, across other groups, other communities. You know, once the system is in place, as you said, you can share it with others, and this model can go and go and go. It doesn't all have to be Lorraine, Charles, and Namal. You can share it with others, which is something that I know CamFed is doing with their sort of learner guides. You know, they're going deeper in the countries they're in, but they're sharing their toolkit across governments to go faster, which I'm happy to share with you as well. So on that note, I just want to now address our audience. We Global Women Leaders use our platform and our collective community to raise profile for women like Lorraine, who are building incredible platforms and systems. But it's on all of us to come together and to understand these challenges and to work together to build the funding solutions, the communication solutions, and to get Lorraine and her community where they need to be and get the visibility up. So on World Refugee Day and during this week, and we will do that, but we'll also do that all through the year. So please reach out, and we'll be pushing this out to several of our contacts and funders and institutional partners who I think would be very interested in this. So hopefully, Lorraine, this has given you a chance to speak from the heart and from your brain about what you're doing. And we're very proud of you and very proud to call you a member of our community. So thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your work and insights on Refugee Day 2023. Thank you, Lorraine.
It's a real pleasure. And I just want to end by saying, you know, this can happen to anyone. A refugee is just a political title. There's no difference between a refugee and someone that's not a refugee. It's only a political title. And as we've seen with Ukraine and now with Sudan, this can be any of us any day. So we really have to, you know, be compassionate, because this could happen to anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to continuing to support your work.
Thank you.